Hello, podcast. We're gonna do that again
Just let it roll. Just let it roll.
Is this one for the
because you
bloopers reel?
started. You started the
It was
recording
counting.
after I said
It
hello.
was no.
At
It
least
was
that's
counting
when-
already.
Oh
Let's-
yeah. All right, cool.
Is that one for the
Hello,
bloopers reel?
podcast nation.
Hello.
Hello, podcast nation.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi,
what's up?
Marvin, you're my biggest fan. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it's you.
Hey, hello, podcast nation. Welcome to the Marcelin Brothers podcast show number 6. You moved away from
MBP.
number 6.
Wow, I can't believe it's 6 already. It feels
MVP.
like 5 to me.
Marvin
Wink,
Brothers
wink.
podcast.
Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep
Hey
it rolling.
man, we missed you, Christopher. What was going on with you, man?
I know, man. I was at work all day, every day. I was very sad to hear that I missed the 5th one.
Yeah, man.
But I'm back at it. I'm ready to attack it again, and let's get at it.
I might have to say, you do look pretty studious with your green scrubs on. Where are you right now?
I am at an undisclosed location.
Wink, wink.
That's
You're definitely
showing.
on break time right now, so it's all good, brother. It's all good.
Well, that is dedication right there, man.
Cool. So, this week we have a really good episode for you guys. We're going to be talking about,
Hey, what's today's date?
that's right, today is Friday, January 18th, 2019.
Gosh, it still sounds
Wow.
weird when you're saying 2018 or 2019.
Ah,
Yeah,
you-
it's just 2018.
2019, that's a great year.
It's
Wow,
gonna
I
be
can't believe we're already there.
Everybody's going to be a fantastic year, and I'm really looking forward to what everything is to come. So for today's episode, we're going to do the same things as we did before. We're going to start off with a little intro, talk about our week, do a little current events, and then we'll transition to camaraderie through sports. So with that said, Junior, how was your week?
My week was pretty good. It is Friday, so that is good. This weekend is going to be fun because it is my wife's birthday. So we've got some
Happy
plans for her.
birthday.
She's had the birthday week, so it's going to be fun. We going to have a family party. So, by the way, Christopher, I don't know what your schedule is, but this is your invite. If you're free, we're starting at 6 o'clock. It's going to be over at brother and sister-in-law's house. So you want to come, cool. If not, cool. I'm also excited because tomorrow I will be headed down to the U
Wow.
because I am going to watch my Tar Heels play against the University of Miami in a basketball game. And,
Oh, that's your real love, the basketball, Tar Heels basketball.
and then Ron is going to be out there. He's still down here, so I'll be hanging out with
Is
Ron.
he?
Then I'm gonna be
Wow.
hanging out with
Man.
Fodlin. He's going to be there too. So we got the Tar
Tar Heel
Heels
crew.
down south. Going to see what we can do to represent. So I am going to be watching that game. The game is at noon. So if anybody from MBP wants to show and represent, come on over and come find me. I'm going to be over at the University of Miami basketball stadium over in Coral Gables. So I'd love to meet some of the MBP fans out there. You know, just introduce yourself. Let me know who you are. Then we'll definitely make sure that we give you guys a shout out the next time we're on the air. So we'll be doing that.
You might cause a stampede or chaos at the basketball game with that calling to the fans.
Well, hopefully I won't be too much of a distraction because I got to make sure that I give all my support over to the Teals.
To the
Now, it's
U,
tough.
right?
Now
To
it's
the
tough
U.
because,
Go Canes.
you know, being raised in South Florida,
Canes.
you know, I do have some University of Miami love, but I've got to go with the alma mater. You know, I've got to support them. So it's a lot
okay.
easier.
We forgive you.
Yeah.
We forgive you.
I'll tell you this, though. It's a lot cheaper to go to a basketball game down here than it is over up in Chapel Hill. So Ron's hooking us up with the tickets, and then we'll be doing that. And then, again, like I said before, we'll be doing some hanging out with the family in the afternoon. And then on Sunday, you know, Leah and I will go out to eat, have a nice dinner on her actual birthday. So it'll be good
Once
time.
again, happy birthday, Leah.
Happy birthday to you.
And then, gosh, this week, just working on the business. You know, trying to
Cool.
work on H2M Properties got some projects going on in the background over there.
There you go.
And, work was work. Another week done. So
Another day.
Can't complain.
What about you, Chris? What's going on with you? How was your week?
Week's been good. Just been on that steady grind at work all day, every day, getting after it.
Wasn't this month supposed to be the easier month?
Well, yes and no. It's easier in the fact that I'm doing something that I want to be doing. I want to be spending a little more time in doing regional. So I'm an anesthesia resident. So with regional, that's where we go by doing nerve blocks. And that's something I definitely want to be doing a lot more of, because I feel like that's the way of the future as far as anesthesia. If you have pain in a certain area of your body, target the pain, get some sort of injection, pain goes away, and you're not taking opioids. Right now, we're in the midst of the opioid epidemic. You'll hear about it in the news.
True.
Every time we turn around, we're talking about opioids, fentanyl, overdoses, and believe it or not, some of that does start at the hospital where they get prescribed fentanyl, they leave without it, and then they're looking for any drug they can get after that, sometimes, with some cases. So the more things we can do to avoid giving out opioids, the better. So one of the best things we can do is nerve blocks post-operatively. So that's something that I definitely want to look out for in the future. That's going to be the way of post-op pain, controlling the post-operative pain.
And he is a medical professional, so he is allowed to say that.
But this is all just talking. This is not medical advice. Please see your own doctor for your own medical advice.
That's true, too.
Good job.
What about what you did during the week? What about our meetup that we had this past Sunday? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, man. That was this week?
Yeah, that seems so long ago, didn't it?
Yeah, because I've just been We had the great fortune of being able to go to the Marvel... I wanted to say Avengers, but it's not. Oh yeah, Avengers. It's not Avengers. Marvel Avengers, Marvel Universe show. So I got to go with my son Eli. We went with Harry. We went with my dad, and the rest of the guys in the family. I guess that's brothers, father-in-law, and brothers, brother-in-law. And it was good.
I bet you had a blast.
Great time. Eli loved it. He saw his favorite superhero, Spider-Man. He also knew who Iron Man was because Daddy was Iron Man for Halloween. So we had a great time. He enjoyed it.
And you guys dressed up.
Yeah, we dressed up. And the show was the perfect amount of time. I'm talking about as soon as Eli started getting fidgety, getting bored, was done with it, the show was over. And we just went home before we had a meltdown. So it was the perfect amount of time. It was a great day.
Nice. How old is he again?
He is 2.5. He'll be 3 in April. I guess he's not really 1/2. It's almost 3/4 now.
Spending that quality time with the family. I love it.
Again, thank you, Leah, because Leah got us all of those for our Christmas gifts. So much appreciated, Leah. Thank you for helping us bring the family together.
Hey.
Let's go.
I got to make sure I give my wife props.
Always.
I see what you did right
Marvin?
there.
What did you do
for me
this week?
This week, still on the grind, going to work as a resident, of course. But something that I started to do a little more is play with my drone. I have a 1080p little DJI drone, and this thing is phenomenal. It's so much fun. I'm getting into trying to create little movies with the drone, trying to capture some nice aerial views and see things from different perspectives that we don't typically see in our everyday lives. And that's just something that right now it's bringing me a lot of joy. So I'm going to continue with that. Another cool thing, my wife's sister, she is currently getting ready to wrap up with her fellowship. She is a pediatric pulmonologist. She's changing the world. She's doing awesome things, and she's looking for a job. So we were able to have her over for a little bit, and we just had great times with her. So once again, just awesome spending time with family,
Cool. So that drone, why did you end up getting the drone for? What are you looking to do with that?
With this, so this is something that I think we could talk about in the future for another episode. But I personally want to find a way to utilize our hobbies and make it into a business of some sort, So that's going to be a cool way to just make things fun, but at the same time, you can get some money back in your pocket. So we'll see if this venture can actually come into fruition.
I liked how you chose the word ventures in that.
We'll talk more about it shortly. Another episode.
Mhm.
Hint, hint. You have to follow along to see what happens next.
Oh, yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and transition to the next segment of our show, which is the current events of the week. Junior, what you got for us?
All right, so one of the topics and passions that I have and that I am starting to learn more about is just understanding financial literacy. So, for those of you guys in the finance world, you guys may have heard that one of the fathers of entrepreneurship of finance actually ended up passing away. So, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the man John Bogle, but
Yes,
John
yes, we
Bogle
are.
is pretty much the father of index investing. So John Bogle is the man who founded Vanguard, and Vanguard is one of the biggest, largest mutual fund companies in the entire world. He came up with the idea of being able to look at the stock market, and with the stock market actually have stocks piled together into an index fund, and with this index fund being able to follow the actual indices in the market. So we'll definitely talk more about index funds and indices and all that stuff later. But essentially what he did was he was able to develop that company, and that company, he made it easy for us to be able to buy mutual funds that mirror the stock market. And with that, as the stock market did well with those funds, the funds in those index funds did well as well. So I'll just read you a little excerpt on the story that I'm picking out. John Bogle, Vanguard founder who urged low fees, dies at 89. John Bogle, who popularized the low-cost index-based mutual fund as the founder of Vanguard Group Incorporated, and insisted that most stock-picking money managers weren't worth the fees they're charged, has died at 89. He died Wednesday in Pennsylvania. The company announced in a statement that the cause was cancer, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer, citing his family. He suffered the the first of at least 6 heart attacks at age 31. In 1967, he had a pacemaker installed. In 1996, he had a heart transplant. By word and example, Bogle, on the behalf of the patient, long-term investing in a diversified group of well-run companies. He focuses advocacy on index funds, those that buy and hold the broadest mixes of stocks. He cautioned that the pursuit of quick trades and short-term profits typically helped investment advisors more than investors. So we'll talk more about future episodes about index funds in general, but this guy is the man who was able to bring the stock market to the everyday individual, the middle class individual who is trying to come up, try to find a way to find investments so that individuals can retire better, individuals can help provide for their families. And this guy was the one that was able to bring it to mainstream, because back in the day, you had to be some sort of, hedge fund individual or somebody with very big, deep pockets to be able to invest in the stock market. But he made it easy for everybody so that everyday individuals are able to come in and invest in companies that do well so that we eventually succeed. And because of him, if you look at your 401ks, you look at all your IRAs, your retirement funds, all these funds that are in these became available because of this individual. So shout out to you, John Bogle. You're the man. Thank you for all the contributions that you've had. And I think the contributions that you've had given to us have been able to help many, many individuals. So that's my story.
Big props. Big props
Yeah,
to him.
yeah. It's definitely an impressive lifetime of work.
Good
Yeah,
evening,
'cause-
Jackson South. May I have your attention, please?
Because just like what you were saying before, I
Trauma
believe
Levy 1.
prior to that, you had to
30
purchase
minutes by
the
Crown.
actual whole stock. So like, let's try to bring this into context. Let's say I want to buy Google or something, a stock of Google. We're looking upwards of thousands of dollars to buy one stock. But since with this individual index funds, now you can buy into an index fund that owns part of that stock. So now you get to have access to that big pie without having to dish out the big cash to buy the whole thing. So, yeah, a lot more people get to participate, which is phenomenal. So, shout out to them. Christopher. Chris, what you got for me?
So my article is going on a different turn. It's more of kind of just giving more directed towards the parents, just kind of a shout out to always pay attention to what's happening with the children. So Fortnite is a popular kids game that a lot of kids are playing. I think it got #1 in sales.
And adults.
Yeah, #1 in sales at all time, I believe, for kind of like a video game slash social media game where the kids kind of play on their console. They connect to the internet and they can play with their friends, and it's this big interactive kind of alternate universe where they have a character and they have some sort of quests. They do all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
I think it was like the #1 grossing in sales because they have their own cash inside the game, so you have to pay real
Wow.
world money to kind of get the Fortnite money. You do different quests and you earn Fortnite money, et cetera, et cetera. So unfortunately, what happened is there was a 41-year-old male who was accused of using the game Fortnite to lure children into unscrupulous activity. So he would friend them on the game. I guess he would give them money, give them whatever items in the game they want, and coerce them into meeting in real life. And when he met them in real life, that's when the alleged assaults took place. So
Wow.
basically, this is just kind of a heads up with all parents, regardless of how harmless it looks. If your child's playing a game, any game, it's connected to the internet and they're interacting with other people, always have to have your guard up. You always have to be parenting your kids at all time. You can't just assume, oh, it's cartoons, it's a child game, it's harmless. I
Yeah.
mean, this right here was a prime example. It was a child's game. It was secure. It's an environment set up for kids, yet there's always predators on the prowl
Wow.
who are attacking people when their guards are down. I mean, I'm sure all of these children's guards were down. They probably assumed they were playing with other children their age. And
Yeah.
just, you always got to be on the lookout, no matter if it's the child iPad, oh, it's the child tablet, it's child
Right.
proof, let's let him have it and go into his room. No, you got to always be on the lookout at all times.
Wow. Those are really extremely important tips, and thanks for, dropping that knowledge on us because I had no idea. I didn't realize how grand of a scope, this game is. And I guess it is kind of alarming when you kind of mix, children with grown adults kind of playing the same game without having parental supervision. And I could definitely see how a lot of parents, just didn't know. So,
Yeah, because
wow.
like with Fortnite, it's almost like it's an alternate reality. Everybody has, you're not supposed to use your real information, of course. Everybody has their screen names, and it's like an alternate reality. And when you're thinking about the internet, you've got all these people who end up meeting each other, and they all have some sort of mission that they're trying to do. So you've got people from all over the world. So again, with anything too much can be a problem. Like it's great because you get to meet different types of people, but again, you can have predators who pretend like they're little kids, and sometimes with these games, just as you're able to bring friendships and camaraderie, you can also have an alternate ego and really do some serious things. So I echo what you guys said, and also with games like Fortnite, I mean, they make big money off of what they call V-Bucks. So essentially, you've got a different form of currency that's in the game, and in this currency in the game, you're able to purchase different items, and that's how they make a lot of their money.
Mm.
Because Fortnite itself is a free game to go into,
So it's like
but
an in-app purchase? Is that
yeah,
what
kind
V-Bucks
of
is
like
kind of
that.
like?
And with these V-Bucks, you're able to do all these different things. So that's another thing that parents need to be careful of too, is if kids have access to their accounts, financial accounts, you can see them easily staying in front of these video games for hours and hours and hours at a time. They can take the credit card number, and they buy things, and before you know it, you can maybe have a deep hole in your pocket. So definitely important to maybe play with your kids, teach your kids how to do things and supervise them. Maybe have, hey, from this time to this time you can do it, so that the parent can always have an idea of what's going on. And then different things like parental access. Maybe what you can do is you have certain times of the day where you block the internet access, especially when it's time that they're supposed to be in bed. So it's a good balance between having fun playing, but also realizing you don't want games like this to take over your life, because that's where situations like what Christopher was talking about can come to pass.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So for my article, I got this article from Yahoo Finance, and I'm going to delve in and talk about federal workers in the shutdown right now. So federal workers detail the worries as shutdown drags on. As the government shutdown barrels toward a month, some of the 800,000 federal employees impacted are they're pretty much in financial straits right now. Can you imagine? Uh, the end of last week marked the first time workers did not receive a full paycheck. As a result, many are wondering how they're going to be able to pay their bills. So, according to real estate company Zillow, federal workers owe a combined 438 million in monthly mortgage and rent payments. So basically of that money, homeowners owe roughly 249 million while the renters pay about 189 million dollars a month. So this thing is dragging on, and now you're putting the federal workers in a very, very difficult, uncompromising situation. And man, what do you think? Like, can we just, as a country, figure out what we need to do so we can move on? These federal workers need to get paid, and this is a problem, a huge problem.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this last week, and it's, I've always tried to live my life, and I know you guys have tried to do the same thing too, is you try not to depend on others for your livelihood, but this is a different scenario because it's not like you're asking for handouts for being able to survive. You are in a profession, you're in a job, and you're trying to take care of yourself, and now you're being asked to work. You are promised that you will eventually get your money back when this is all said and done, and I do believe that at some point people will get their monies back, but it's tough because you don't know when. And so many people live from paycheck to paycheck, where that one paycheck is huge, where I mean, literally, the definition of living paycheck to paycheck is I need these funds coming in to be able to do things that I need to survive the next day. And that's why it's so important to be able to have an emergency fund set up. And we'll talk more about that during this podcast about financial management, being able to have an emergency fund so if things come up, you're not having to depend on credit cards, because now this is what's going to have to happen is people have credit cards. They're going to have to use their credit cards. Credit cards have 28, 30, 35% interest.
But even with that credit card, you're just buying yourself one more month. But
that's what I'm saying.
Say the same thing might not happen.
And then eventually, you not only are going to have to get your money back, but then you're not going to be able to pay that interest. So now you're going to be even more into debt because you didn't have that emergency fund. So I don't know how people who don't have it set up are living. And I guess that's where side hustles come in. I think people are finding some creative side hustle jobs. Like, there's probably a lot more people who are Ubering now. There's probably Uber Eats. People are probably doing that. People are probably having to change their daily habits as far as going to the grocery store. Instead of buying DiGiorno's, maybe now they're buying Walmart brand pizza, and whatever you need to do to make ends meet, and you got to do what you got to do. There's no right and wrong way. And it's getting to the point now where people may have to decide, hey, do I keep the lights on? Do I buy my medicine? Do I buy my food? So very scary, and I don't know when it's going to end. I did not think when I first heard about this story last year in December that it would really be almost a month, because I think there was a government shutdown.
Yeah, this is the longest one to date in the history of the U.S. of A.
Because we had the government shutdown last year, but that was maybe for like 5 or 6 days, and then after that, then Congress was able to pass the bill. But that's when the you had the Senate and the House, they were the same party, so they just agreed to do it, and they both had the majority. Whereas now, you've got the House and the Senate being different, and I think because of that, it's very difficult to come to an agreement. So I don't know what's going to happen. What do you think, Christopher?
I mean, it's definitely, it's just unheard of. I think that's not even fair that that's even a possibility, that if if there's a disagreement, that you drag everyone's livelihood through the mud just because you're trying to force the decision that you want. I mean, I think there's definitely ways to go about trying to negotiate and get what you want, but trying to strong arm people into getting your way or the highway, I just think that definitely it's gonna come to a point where there's a tipping point, and that's we're well on our way to that. Where regardless of what happens, this will be addressed, and this will probably be at some sort of point where this will never happen again, whether or not it's taken away the president's power to have a government shutdown, or just something drastic will happen, and it's only a matter of time. Once Maslow's hierarchy kind of comes into effect, once people no longer have shelter, food, everything goes out the door. Everything's out the window. Once you start messing with that, there's no coming back. So it's a matter of time. The shutdown will not be more than a couple of weeks left, because there will be pandemonium in the streets. There'll be martial law, and it will not last longer than that.
And the thing is, once you have martial law, you're not going to have anybody to be able to keep the peace because they're federal workers. You know.
Yeah. So it's definitely, we're on the last straits. I think everyone having their little bluff. Everyone's doing what they want to as far as trying to kind of keep their poker face on, but there's only the writing's on the wall. There's a limited amount of time this government shutdown can happen before there's uprising and anarchy. So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, the only thing that I think would help, and it's never going to happen, is if you had the Senate and the House and the Congress not get paid until this was all over, then they definitely would have figured something out quick. But
I think you might be onto something. Like that might be something that could potentially happen in the future, just like what Christopher was saying. Something has to change so that this doesn't happen again, and that might be the solution.
But at the same time, I don't know if that's much of a solution, because look at the kind of social aspect, the kind of who becomes the senator, governor. Most of these people are just wealthy individuals to begin with that don't really depend on day in and day out jobs. So it may not affect Congress and Senate as much as you'd like to believe or hope, but
I think they would at least feel it, because right now they're just depending on their constituents, and their constituents are gonna, they're gonna say, oh, the person is gonna blame the other person, and they'll still get the people who want to vote for them. But at least in that aspect, they would at least feel it a little bit,